My wife is at a couple's spa with her boyfriend, and I'm done pretending. That's how this started. Me, shaking in my kitchen at 6:01 a.m., staring at a screenshot she accidentally sent of Amazon orders for our twins' winter boots. At the bottom, clear as day, a delivery to a man named Evan W., same city as her conference. Below that, saved addresses, his apartment, and a desert resort hotel with monogrammed bathrobes, his and hers. Except I wasn't the his. By tonight, they'll open a suitcase and find the letter I taped under the lining. 10 pages of receipts, airline confirmations, Venmo notes with heart emojis, and the dinner reservation for couples cooking. I'll tell them both to enjoy their trip. I'll also tell you how it ends, because I know you're going to ask. There's a phone call from the hotel room, a voice I've never heard before calling me buddy, and then there's me boxing her life into the garage and learning how to breathe again. Yeah, there's a cliff on the other side of this, and I drove us to it. I didn't always sound like this. Yesterday, I was the guy folding laundry with a chipped blue mug of diner coffee on the dryer, loving the thump of the machine because it meant our home was normal. The normal where you kiss a forehead on your way out, the normal where the cat meows dramatically at 5:13 a.m., the normal where you sit in the driveway eating a Taco Bell burrito in the quiet because chaos is about to begin. Then she sent me that screenshot. "Hey, wrong thread," she texted. "Oops, those are the boys' boots, LOL. My stomach dipped. My thumbs hovered. I saw the other address and felt a rush so strong it made the kitchen smell like pennies and lemon cleaner. I told myself, not again, don't be that guy. But the lol didn't fit. Nothing fit. So yeah, I checked her email. The browser auto-filled for me like it had been waiting. Airport parking receipts, a monogram order from Etsy, H&W bathrobes, and the W wasn't our last name. Venmo to Evan W. for wine and that massage. A PDF itinerary for a resort that looked like every "we'll finally reconnect" fantasy we never booked. A reminder to herself, call spa about couples massage. I kept folding laundry until the dryer stopped and the room went quiet, except for a neighbor's snowblower and my heartbeat. Then I booked a therapist. Then I called my sister, Liv, who said, "Okay, we're not making a scene yet." Liv has this voice like a news anchor, calm, terrifyingly precise. We build the folder, we write the letter, we trap it where there's no way out, but through. Trap? I asked. Not for her, Liv said, for your self-respect. I wrote the letter. 10 pages, single-spaced, printed at the FedEx by the grocery store where the rotisserie chickens always smell like Sundays. I slid it into a manila envelope and taped it under the lining of her carry-on while she showered. There was steam, the feel of her lotion in the air, the scent of eucalyptus, the reality of our marriage hanging on the hook. I tucked it away with a shaking hand. "Flight's at 9, she called over the water. "Don't forget to send the daycare email." "Yep," I said. My mouth tasted like fear and old coffee. I hugged her at the door. She hugged back. Her hair smelled like the green shampoo she swore was cheaper in bulk. She disappeared into an Uber, staring at her phone. The door clicked shut. The house hummed. The cat licked his paw and stared at me like, "Well?" I planned the group text for 4 p.m. their time, right at check-in, after they've smiled at the front desk and taken the key card with the mountain logo, after they've set their phones on the nightstand and pretended they didn't hear the bell in their own heads. I filled the day with little things so I wouldn't implode. A Target run. Our aisles still had the off-brand cereal she swore tasted the same. Fixing the squeaky fan in the nursery, feeding the boys dinosaur nuggets and slicing grapes in half. At noon, I checked our phone records and saw she texted him during her layover. My messages to her turned green. She'd blocked me. It's cute when people say I'd never check. That's not a moral stance. That's just luck. I waited for 4 p.m., sipping flat Diet Coke and staring at our calendar with couples therapy on Thursdays crossed out so many times the page door. When it came, I was ready. I sent the text to both of them. Enjoy your trip. There's a letter in your suitcase. When you're done reading, call me. Not to explain, to coordinate the logistics of our divorce. Then I waited, holding the chipped blue mug like a talisman, the dishwasher humming like a lullaby I didn't deserve. The phone rang. And my life pivoted. When you imagine the call, you imagine panic, scrambling apologies, defensiveness, denial. You do not imagine a stranger's voice, male, smooth like an HR email, saying, "Hey man, this is Evan. Can we be adults about this?" I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. Put my wife on the phone. He exhaled into the receiver. "She's here. She's upset. This is all very complicated." Put my wife on. Silence. Then her voice, small but steady. "Can we not do this now?" In the background, a door latch, muffled hotel hallway talk, the sound of ice clinking in a metal bucket. I pictured the room, generic art of an orange canyon on the wall, a love seat too small for anyone over 5'6", a table brochure screaming, "Sunset Horseback Tours." "Are you hurt?" I asked. "Do I need to call the front desk?" "I'm fine," she said, like she was ordering takeout. "You did your detective thing. Congrats." The words hit like hailstones. Ping, ping, ping. "Explain the November trip." Ping. Silence. I heard her swallow. "We'll talk when I get back." "You'll talk to my lawyer when you get back," I said. "Go read the letter. Consider it your script." "Don't be dramatic, Ben." She used my name like a weapon. "This isn't you." No, it wasn't me. Me was painting the boys' wooden racetrack at midnight because it smelled like glue in childhood. Me was making her the weird latte she liked with cinnamon and oat milk because dairy made her throat sticky. Me was waiting up with a blanket and a dumb thriller no one really watched because that's what married people do. But that me was apparently a character she'd written out of the show without telling him. "Put him back on," I said. He took the phone. "Look, I get you're hurt." "Stop," I said. "You don't get anything about my life. That letter outlines what happens next. I'll need to talk to my wife about the boys. I have nothing to say to you, except one question. You knew she had kids. How did that feel?" He didn't answer. The line clicked dead. The smell of frozen pizza filled the kitchen. The boy stomped in from the living room, cheeks shiny with applesauce. "Mommy," one asked. "She's on a work trip," I said, and realized how sarcastic my voice sounded and swallowed hard. At 6:43 p.m., Emma, my best friend since college, the only person who knows I cried in the bathroom the day our first was born because I was terrified I'd hurt him by being clumsy, buzzed the door. She walked in with Thai food and the face she reserves for emergencies. "What's the plan?" she asked. I told her about the green texts. She tried from her phone. Her message went blue. Delivered. "She blocked you," Emma said. She didn't say, "Wow." She just took my phone away like it was a weapon I couldn't be trusted with. "Call the hotel," she said. "Ask for the room. Don't ask yourself what you'll say. Just call." The boys watched cartoons, something loud and nonsensical with a raccoon, and the sound of ginger and basil filled the room. I took a breath. I dialed. "Front desk," a bright voice chirped. "We hope you're enjoying your stay at—" "I'm not staying. Put me through to room—" I paused. We had the number. I had the number because I'd seen the confirmation email while she was showering. The line rang. I imagined a knock at their door. Reality. The call picked up. "Hello?" Her voice, breathy. "This is the part," I said, "where you realize love isn't a magic trick." "Don't be poetic," she snapped. I heard him, low, "You shouldn't answer." Then a rustle, as if she covered the receiver with her palm. When she came back, her voice was flat. "We're getting divorced. Are you happier now? Is this what you wanted?" "No," I said. "What I wanted was honesty before the monogrammed robes." She hung up. Emma squeezed my shoulder, hard enough to ground me. We ate Thai food in silence, the sound of cartoons and forks scraping cartons making everything worse.
Midway through, my phone buzzed. Her text. It went through this time. Fine. Divorce. That's it. Not a grief, not a scream, not an apology. The words sat there like a receipt for something I didn't order. Emma wiped her mouth with a napkin. Okay, she said. Now we move the plan forward. I know someone reading this is thinking, why didn't you fly there? What kind of man stands in his kitchen while his wife wraps herself in hotel towels and another man's compliments? I had 2 sleeping kids upstairs and a cat that vomits anytime you blink too long. My job is an HVAC tech. I don't get to just hop on a plane like a reality show. Also, and this is the truth, I didn't want to go be second to their romance. I wanted to be first to my dignity. I boxed up her winter sweaters and the stack of novels with beachy covers. I put all of it in the garage with the smell of motor oil and pine cleaner. I found the shoebox labeled cables and laughed because none of us ever know what's in there, and this felt like that. A tangle you inherited, a mess that shocks you if you touch it wrong. I texted her again. When you land, we'll discuss pickup for the boys. Green. Blocked. Again. Emma texted from her phone. Call me when you land. Logistics.
Blue. Delivered. 2 words back. Not now. Zero empathy, I told Emma. You're shocked? She asked, then softened. No, you're not. We let the boys fall asleep on the sofa. Emma stayed until the raccoon ended and the credits rolled over chirpy music. I'll call you at check-in, she said. I waved with a thumb because my hands were shaking. The house was too quiet once she left. I walked into the twins' room and listened to their slow breathing and the faint, comforting rattle of the heat kicking on. I decided something then. I wasn't going to be the world's angriest ex yelling on a curb. I was going to be the calmest. Calm like a loaded truck rolling downhill with the brake lights off. The next morning, the house smelled like stale soy sauce and Dawn dish soap. I woke to a text from my mother. 7 text bubbles, all some version of, call me right this second. I didn't want to call. I called. My mother answered like she'd been holding her breath. What's going on? She said without hello. I told her. I didn't tell her about the robes because I didn't want to hear her say robes in her accent. She went quiet in the way that means tears are organizing themselves behind her eyes. I failed. I picked wrong. You picked right for who you were at 24, she said gently. People evolve. Sometimes they evolve into liars. I laughed in that ugly way grief makes you. Great, so we're Darwining our way to court. She swore quietly in Spanish and said she'd be by later with arroz con pollo because heartbreak needs carbs. Then she asked, are you telling her parents? Her tone was careful, like she knew she'd just set a match near gasoline. They deserve to know who their daughter is. Would you tell their family if this happened to you? I pictured her mother, sweet woman with fridge magnets of every national park they've never visited, stirring coffee while I explained that her daughter Googled monogram couples robes overnight shipping. I don't know, I said, and my voice cracked like brittle ice. Feels like nuclear. Then go nuclear, my mother said, surprisingly cold. You're too gentle for scorched earth. That's why she thought she could do this. I promised I'd think about it. At 10 a.m., while the boys built a Lego city that looked like a post-apocalyptic DMV, the hotel call history pinged my phone. 2 missed calls from their room. I didn't answer. I showered under water that went hot, cold like our fights lately. I toweled off in the loud quiet you only get when you've cried so hard your tear ducts feel like dry wells. When I called back, a woman answered. I'd never heard her voice sound like that, hard, like she'd been practicing being the villain and finally landed the role. We're done, she said. We'll do mediation. I don't want anything. I just want out. You want out? I repeated, picking up a Batman sock from under the table. From your life? From you, she said, and something in me went still and clear. Okay, I said. I swear I felt a click in my chest, like a lock opening. We hung up. I looked around our kitchen and saw 12 years of 2 people who used to finish each other's jokes. It was like walking into a set the actors had left. props, but no plot. After lunch, Emma came back. Coffee, paper cups, a pack of lemon disinfectant wipes, because she knows I clean when I panic. We packed. We moved. We pretended we didn't see the photo of us on the beach with her in my hoodie because the wind wouldn't stop that day. We pretended that the wedding album's broken spine wasn't some kind of metaphor. Around 4, she texted me a new number. "Use this," she said. "I'm not ready to see your name." I changed my contact in her phone to logistics, because if a heart has to break, it might as well be efficient. That night, the twins asked if Mommy was back. I told them, not yet. I tucked them in and kissed their foreheads and smelled Cheerios and Little Boy shampoo and tried not to drown. At 9:17, the garage door creaked like a haunted house. I walked out and stared at the boxes. Emma had labeled them in her neat handwriting. Shoes, books, kitchen gadgets she never used. I stood there with the smell of cardboard and dust and something sweet I couldn't place, maybe the last of her perfume from a scarf. My phone buzzed. A message from logistics. "We should plan Christmas," she wrote. My chest went tight. She'd just undone our life and wanted to figure out stockings. It felt obscene. But she wasn't wrong. The boys still needed magic. We agreed. She could come watch them open presents. After that, basement living until she found a place. I hated myself for that softness. I did it anyway. "We should stay civil," she wrote. "Sure," I typed. "Civil like a courtroom." I didn't send it. I sent yes. I fell asleep on the sofa with the TV murmuring a nature doc. Wolves moving silent in snow. The narrator whispering about hunger as if it were an animal that lived with you.
Here's the part that always surprises people. She asked for reconciliation. Not then. A week later, after she came back and installed herself in the basement like a tenant who never signed a lease. After she watched the boys on Christmas and left without taking her stocking because it felt weird. After mediation intake calls where a woman with a kind voice asked if either party had a history of hiding assets, and I had to say, well, and explain about Venmo hearts. We were standing in the kitchen with the lemony light of winter mornings, my hands in a sink full of dishes. She said, "We can try again." I laughed. I didn't mean to. It came out like a bark. Try again? I set down a plate with a clink. At which part? The vows? The couples massage? "You're being cruel," she said. I dried my hands on the dish towel with the little strawberries on it, and I slowed my breathing. "You're asking to build a house on a sinkhole. It'll swallow us whole." Her eyes flashed. "We weren't happy, Ben." "Then why didn't we say it out loud?" She didn't answer. The cat scratched the chair like it was a drum, an annoying beat for a sad song. We picked a mediator. Over Zoom, we looked like an ad for telehealth for polite disasters. We split holidays. We discussed spousal support. She said she wanted nothing. I didn't believe her. Then she repeated it like a mantra. "I want out." I called my sister after. "She wants nothing," I said. Liv snorted. "You do realize that nothing always includes your peace, right?" "Thanks," I said. "So helpful." At bedtime, I told the boys we were doing to work really hard to be a good family that lives in 2 houses. I didn't cry until their nightlight, this dumb little plastic moon, clicked on and made the room glow like a cheap planet. Later that week, I walked past the basement door and heard her on speaker. The door was cracked. I didn't mean to listen until I heard my name and the words, "acting crazy." She told him I'd thrown things, screamed until my voice broke. She cast herself as long-suffering. She said I was claiming abandonment. She said she had no choice. Here's a one-liner for you. Silence is a confession with better lighting. I stood there with my hand on the wood and felt the shape of my own reputation in a stranger's mouth. I slammed the door, harder than I needed to. The cat sprinted like a cartoon. She went quiet downstairs. I went to the sink and scrubbed a plate that was already clean until my fingers ached. Do you think cheaters ever really change? At our next mediation meeting, the mediator asked why one of us might move out of state. I said the name of it. The mediator tilted her head. "Why there?" she asked my wife. My wife opened her mouth and closed it. She looked at me like I'd outed her as a magician at a kid's party. She mumbled, "I'm seeing someone."
That's the first time she said that out loud, I said. My voice surprised me. Calm, not cruel. Afterwards, we talked about logistics in the parking lot. The air smelled like old snow and gas. I told her she needed to find an apartment. She told me she'd try. I told her the boys deserved predictability. She asked if she could fly out for Valentine's Day. No, I said, not while you're living here. She promised she wouldn't. She booked a flight that night. Maybe this is a good time for one more one-liner. She didn't slip, she switched teams. When she left for Valentine's, she tossed, "I'm going," into the air and let it fall where her kids could hear it without context. I had to mop it up. I asked for her flight info. She said she didn't have to give it. I told myself to stop asking for decency from a person who'd shown me her ceiling for it. While she was gone, my family lost someone to COVID. I texted her that things were bleak. She replied hours later, "I'm sorry." No call for the boys at midnight on New Year's, no countdown FaceTime. When I asked, she said, "You didn't tell me they'd be expecting it." I went outside and screamed into the cold until the neighbor's motion light flashed on, and I pretended I had a reason to be there. Is it better to leave quietly or burn it all down? I didn't burn anything. I turned off the light and went back in. The twist didn't come from her. It came from the past. Her father called. He never calls me. He's the kind of man who texts thumbs up to photos of his grandkids playing soccer and thinks that counts as love. He asked if he could take the boys next Saturday. Sure, I said, wary. At pickup, he looked fragile in a way that wasn't age. He stared at the cul-de-sac, at the plastic scooter tipped over like a crime scene, at me. He stared at the patchwork, at me. "She told me," he said finally. "Told you she cheated, or told you she rewrote history?" I asked. His eyes filled. "I told her mother I was going on a work trip next week." He swallowed, looked at his shoes. "It's not a work trip." It took me a second, then it hit me. "You..." He nodded once. "I met someone."
He wiped his face with his palm like he was washing shame. "I don't want to lie anymore." His voice cracked. "I'm a cliché." We stood on the porch smelling the neighbor's fireplace and damp leaves and the ghosts of grilled chicken from last summer. All I could think was, she learned somewhere that leaving quietly is an art. Maybe he taught her. Maybe the story was always going to end like this. Maybe we had no chance. I told my mother later. She made a sound like a curse and kissed my forehead the way she did when I got the wind knocked out of me in 5th grade. "Some trees bear bitter fruit," she said. "You don't have to eat it." I texted my wife that I knew about her not work trip. She didn't reply. The silence was a whole storyboard. The next day, she asked if she could introduce the boys to Evan sometime soon. No, not until the ink on our divorce was dry, not until she could say affair without choking on the first syllable. We drafted a parenting plan. We put in time for therapy for the kids. We decided on weekend visits and a midweek dinner. She said she might move closer to him. I asked, "Where will you stay when you fly back monthly to see the boys?" She said instantly, "With a friend." We don't have friends like that. My eyebrows did all the talking. That night, Emma came over with brownies that tasted like sugar and solidarity. She pulled up a chair and said, "You're doing the right thing. You're building with bricks, not fireworks." "Fireworks are more fun," I muttered. "Fireworks burn fast," she said. "You need something that stays." At 11 p.m., the basement door clicked. I listened to her giggle into her phone. It was a sound I used to love. It was now the soundtrack to someone else's romance. I didn't bang on the door. I wrote an email to a kid's therapist. I filled out a mediation form. I stood in the doorway of the twins' room and tried to memorize the shape of their eyelashes in the nightlight glow. Moving day came like a holiday you dread. Boxes everywhere. The tape guns scream. The smell of dust and cardboard. The boys pressed their noses to the window to watch the truck. When it drove away full of her life, my youngest asked, "Is the truck coming back?" He wasn't upset about her leaving. He wanted more truck. It felt obscene to be relieved. I was. The house echoed. The basement was a rectangle of quiet. I opened the windows and let in cold air like a blessing. She texted that she'd settled in her new place. I stared at the text until the screen went black.
Friends who had been silent started texting. "We're here if you want to talk." I knew what some of them wanted. Tea. So I brew it for them, because if you don't tell your story, someone else will. I gave them broad strokes. I didn't give addresses or receipts. Keeping it civil, sure, but not silent. Tell the truth before it's told for you. Emma set up a spreadsheet for bills because she knows the ugliest fights happen over things that live in Excel. We scheduled the boys' therapy. We agreed no introductions to new partners for 6 months. She said, okay. I didn't believe her. I put it in writing. My mother asked again, should we tell her parents more? I hesitated. What good does it do? I asked. Shame is a blunt instrument. It hits everyone in the room. Sometimes you need blunt, my mother said. Precision is for surgeons. This is a demolition. I shook my head. I was done performing morality for the crowd. I was focusing on groceries and kindergarten registration and installing a second-hand dresser that still smelled like someone else's prior sheets. At 12:40 a.m. on New Year's, she didn't call the boys. They'd fallen asleep with glitter hats tilted over their eyes. I texted her that they'd wanted to hear her voice. She said, "You didn't tell me to call." I slid the phone across the table like it burned. Would you stay for the kids or leave immediately? I mean, the deal was already done. Leaving was a fact. The question morphed into this. How do you leave with grace when they've shown you none? She came by for dinner the next week, and I made spaghetti because it's cheap and the twins will eat it without making faces. She told them about a new park near her apartment. I watched their faces, the way happiness and confusion can wear the same mask. When she left, the house felt clean, like someone had pulled a nail out of the wall and the hole finally had air. Later that night, I heard the basement door again in my head, even though she was gone. The phantom of it. The way you still feel your phone buzz in your pocket when it's on the table, because your nerves are addicted to the lie. Liv texted, "Remember, your job is to be boring. Courts love boring. Kids love boring. Boring is safe." I stood in the kitchen and repeated it like a spell. Boring is safe. Boring is shelter. Boring is love that doesn't make you guess.
We signed the settlement on a Wednesday in January when the sky was a hard white and everything outside smelled like wet mittens. Zoom court is anticlimactic. They read your life like a catalog order and then stamp processed. I wanted a choir or at least a bell. I got buffering. Afterwards, she texted, "He might move here." I said, "Okay." She said, "We want to do dinner with the boys." I said, "Not yet." She sent a thumbs up, the exact one her father sends. The boys and I built a Lego city on the kitchen floor. It looked less like a DMV now and more like a ridiculous dream. Bridges to nowhere, a pizza stand next to a bank, a dragon perched on City Hall. We took a walk where the air smelled like wood smoke and someone else's laundry. I told them we could make our own traditions. They asked if that meant more cookies. I said yes because I needed a win. She missed 2 midweek dinners in February. Work, she texted. Then sick. Then nothing. I documented because that's what boring people do. No fireworks, just a folder. One afternoon, the twins came home with paper hearts and glue stuck to their sleeves and told me, "Mommy met a friend at the park." The friend's name was Ev. It was sooner than we'd agreed. It always is. I didn't rage text. I emailed her. Per our agreement, no introductions for 6 months. She wrote back, "It was an accident. He was there." I added it to the folder. I made grilled cheese and the smell of butter and bread filled the kitchen and settled me like a lullaby. "Do you think you'll ever date?" Emma asked later, sitting on my stoop with takeout containers and our breath clouding the cold air. "I think I'll buy a better coffee maker first," I said. Practicality is a love language. Also, a minor form of hope. "Do you think trust can ever be rebuilt once it's broken?" My therapist would say trust can be rebuilt with time and consistent behavior. But you need lumber for that. She was giving me splinters, so I built trust with myself instead. She moved again in March, closer to the airport. She said it was cheaper. The boys said her new place smelled like candles that hurt their noses. I bought them a hand soap that smelled like cookies and told them it was our secret weapon against stinky candles. They took it like a prize. I slept through the night for the first time in months and dreamed of absolutely nothing. It was glorious. It's a Monday when the real ending happens. The twins are at school, the cat is standing in the window like a disapproving landlord, and I'm reorganizing the junk drawer because that's who I am now. The phone buzzes. Her mother. She never calls me. I answer. "I wanted to apologize," she says, voice rough, "for my daughter, for all of it." "You don't have to apologize for her," I say, and mean it. "But I do," she says, "because I taught her to keep quiet when she should speak. I taught her that leaving clean is better than staying messy. I may have made a coward." I lean against the counter and look at the bowl of clementines we keep forgetting to eat. "She made choices," I say. "I made mine." "You're a good father," she says. "You were a good husband." I don't cry. I don't. But my throat burns in that specific way that means I will if I let one breath go wrong. I thank her. I tell her the boys are okay. I tell her they'll always be okay because I plan like a maniac and love like a boring person, constantly. After we hang up, I text my sister. Her mom called me. Liv texts back a skull emoji and an earthquake. I laugh. It feels like opening a window.
That night, my phone lights up. It's her. "We're engaged," she writes. It is an act of God that I don't reply with the shorthand for, "Oh, really?" I set the phone down. I pour myself the cheap bourbon that tastes like burnt sugar and bad decisions. I sit on the floor with the Lego city, which now has a second bridge. I breathe. I imagine telling the boys and realize I don't have to. They'll find out when she tells them. Another thing I can't control. Another thing that isn't my job. I text Emma. She's engaged. Emma. She's consistent if nothing else. Me. He proposed with a monogrammed ring box, you think? Emma sends 3 skull emojis and a rat. I laugh into my sleeve. Here's the last one-liner I'll give you. Love isn't blind. It's busy. Busy people miss details, like the way their kids watched the truck and asked if it was coming back, because they wanted the truck, not the leaving. Would you tell their new partner what they did? No, he knows. He was there. If you were me, what would you do next? I did the only thing that makes sense in a life that's been detonated by romance. I built something boring and true. I labeled the storage bins. I found a therapist for little boys who ask practical questions about unfair things. I signed them up for swim class, chlorine and laughter and the whistle's sharp sound. I learned how to braid hair because one of them likes his bangs pulled back with a tiny clip shaped like a dinosaur. I bought that good coffee maker. I put my ring in a box and put the box in the back of the closet and didn't give it a ceremony. And when I said goodnight, I added something I never used to say. You're safe. Because that's the point of all this. Not revenge, not combustion, safety. And that's when I realized she never loved me the way I needed to be loved.